Welcome, everyone, to another chapter of Murder in Stratton County. A murder mystery with twists and turns. Written by Elizabeth Spoon and Ryland Mason. Narrated by me, Brian Shepard.
Chapter 16, Part 2, A Shadow is Lurking. And the conclusion of Murder in Stratton County. Last chapter, we left off where we just got a phone call from the sheriff, notifying him that Rhonda was found dead. How? Brian asked. Well, it seems like it was an accident. No foul play. It seems Shep went to check on her, and he came across her laying on the kitchen floor with a yoga ball between her legs. He seems to suggest something happened, making her fall backwards off the ball, snapping her neck when she hit the floor. Sad to know that she had been lying there for about 5 days, Jordan said, rubbing Brian's arm. That poor woman. Shep was seeing her on and off. That sucks, Alice said. Well, I'm going to check on the horses and make sure they have everything, and make sure the barn is closed up, Jordan said as he made his way to grab his coat from the back door. You coming? Smiling at Brian as he zipped up his coat. I have no idea how to care for horses. Just ride them. I wouldn't want to be in the way, Brian said as he too zipped up. Never. I'll be more than happy to show you, he said as he turned to handle and walked outside into what seemed to be a decent, brisk afternoon. The sun would have been starting its descent behind the mountain had the sun been out. Soon the temperature would drop. What seemed not really long to take, Jordan had cleaned out the horses' stalls with Brian's help, made sure they had food and water, and the horses had their saddle blankets to protect them from the cold. Pausing for a moment, Brian turned to Jordan. How do you suppose they got out earlier? Jordan looked up from the hay bale he was moving. I'm not sure. He walked over to inspect the door latch, thinking maybe he didn't shut it all the way, but it was in working order. They were talking back and forth of other possibilities when Brian heard Cam calling from them. That woman is here from the marketplace, he yelled from the deck. Wow, is it really 5:45 already? Jordan said, looking down at his watch. Brian smiled. Time flies when you're not thinking about it, gleaming at Jordan. Brian stepped out of the barn and started walking up the hill to the house while Jordan shut the doors, this time making sure the latch was shut tight. He propped a small piece of wood against the door. That should do it. Safe inside for now. He jogged up the hill to catch Brian. Looks like it's about to start snowing, he said, pointing to the ever-darkening skies. They climbed the stairs to the deck and went into the kitchen, where Alice was standing with Cam. Hello, Alice, Brian said as he and Jordan unzipped their coats and hung them on the hooks in the mudroom between the deck and the kitchen. Slipping off his boots, Jordan went to the sink to wash his hands, Brian standing behind him, waiting in turn to do the same thing. So, I think I got everything you asked for over the phone, she said. I threw in a couple of extra things since now closed, just till Friday, just in case. She smiled at the two of them. Cam was still peeking through the boxes to see if there was anything in particular he could munch on at that moment. Everyone was talking when Cam made a shh sound. "What is that?" Cam whispered. "It's sleeting," Jordan said heavily. They all were staring out the sliding glass doors, watching for a minute or two as it came down. And came down fast, building up a layer of thick, icy mess on everything. The temperature was dropping fast. Everything was starting to freeze on contact. Brian turned and looked at Alice. "There's no way you can drive back to town in this. I won't let you." "Oh, come on. I've driven in worse," Alice said with the wave of a hand as if this was nothing. They initially said their goodbyes, and Alice went back out to the truck to leave. Jumping in, she turned the key, but the engine wouldn't crank over. "Shoot." Alice got out and went back up to the door, ringing the bell. Jordan answered. "What's wrong?" he asked, looking over her shoulder. "The truck won't start," she said, shaking off the icy cold. "I think the cold killed the battery. I have cables. Can you jump me?" she asked. It was an old truck. Alice was surprised it had lasted this long. Getting to point B was fine. It was getting back to A that seemed to be an issue sometimes. Alice thought she would just have to use it or get rid of it. Brian looked at Jordan then. "Why don't you just stay here, Alice?" Brian suggested. It seemed like the safer option. "Oh, I can't impose like that. Besides, I've got Henry at home," Alice said as her eyes widened, thinking of her cat, all alone. "Who's Henry?" Cam asked, wondering. "My cat. I can't leave him alone." "Oh, he'll be fine," Cam said with a smile. "Well, can I use your phone?" she said. "Sure," Jordan said, handing her the cordless from the table. Alice walked towards the fireplace to call Shep. The phone rang a couple of times before he picked up. "Hello?" Finally answering. "Shep, it's Alice. I hate to ask, but I'm stuck out here at the Jones farm. The battery died on the truck. Can you go check on Henry for me, if it's not too much trouble?" she asked with concern in her voice. "It's no trouble at all. I've got to go back out to the marketplace quickly. I forgot something I needed in the kitchen. I'm going right by there. I'll be sure to stop." "The key is under the planter, on the left. Thanks, Shep," Alex said with a sigh of relief. "No problem, kiddo. Stay safe," he said before hanging up the call. Alice hung up the phone. "Well, Henry is taken care of. I don't know what I would do sometimes without Shep," Alice said with a smile of gratitude. All four had gathered in the living room and began to talk about various topics and current events. Alice really never got to spend time with Brian much, with both of them on schedules that had them too busy to just sit and hang out. Hang out with Brian? Would he? Alice thought to herself. In a way, I guess this would be it. Alice was still contemplating jumping the battery in her dad's old Chevy and attempting to get home. After all, she had no change of clothes or provisions of her own that she actually needed. She turned to Jordan and Brian. "I'm not sure, but I think I can get it started," she said with a determined look on her face. "Oh, nonsense. Are you worried because you don't have anything to wear or change into?" Jordan tapped her on the back with one hand. "No worries, Alice. I got a whole closet of women's clothes that were left here by the previous owners. I'm sure there's something there that will fit you. Come on, I will show you." Jordan walked into the guest room. The bed was still messed up from Cam sleeping in it. Jordan then opened the closet door. See? Take your time and try stuff on. Whatever fits, you can just throw it in the washer. Jordan then closed the door, heading back into the living room. Cam, you forgot to make the bed this morning, he said, folding his arms across his chest with a grin. Oh, sorry about that, Cam responded. Brian stood up and stretched. We should maybe think about prepping that turkey and possibly making dinner for tonight, Brian said, looking around the room till he found Jordan's eyes. That sounds like a fantastic idea, Cam said as he got even more comfortable on the sofa. They went into the kitchen while Cam sat watching the television. Alice, pulling a sweater and some pants off the coat hangers, tried them on. Surprisingly, they fit perfectly. She tried a couple of other pieces on and then closed the door to the closet. Pulling her pants back on and her sweatshirt over her head, she opened the door and went back down the hallway to the living room. Cam looked up at her quickly, then went back to watching TV. She walked into the kitchen, where Jordan and Brian were having a laugh over the raw turkey that they were attempting to prepare for dinner tomorrow. Alice just simply smiled. These fit. Where's your washer? She said with her clothes in her hand. Brian, still laughing, pointed to the hallway. It's the door at the end of the hall, on the left. The basement. Do you mind showing her, Jordan? Brian said. Jordan took Alice down the hall to the basement door, opened it, and flicked on the light to the stairwell. And Alice went down the stairs to wash the clothes she had picked from the closet, not feeling so bad now that she didn't have anything to wear. She closed the lid after adding the soap and went back up the stairs. Returning to the kitchen, Alice pulled out a bar stool and sat down. You guys want help with dinner? She asked, looking at Brian and Jordan. Jordan smiled, pouring a glass of wine and sliding it to her from across the island. No, you relax. We got this, Jordan responded. Still giggling over the joke that they were making of the turkey, Cam came wandering in a few minutes later. Damn, look at that, he pointed. The entire landscape outside was encased in frozen ice. Alice turned and looked at Brian. This storm could get bad. That's a lot of ice. Are you guys prepared if we lose power? She turned back to Jordan with concern. Jordan smiled. Well, I've got propane, so we won't starve, and the fireplace is big enough for heat, he said. Like there would be a 100% guarantee or your money back. Jordan would not have moved here if the outside elements would have prevented him from living in the home year-round. He looked around the house, confident things would be okay, as long as they stuck it out together. Cam reached for an empty wine glass on the table and poured himself some wine, pulling out another bar stool and sitting down next to Alice. You could hear the weatherman talking about the movement of the storm and how intense it might become in the coming overnight hours. Brian pulled a bowl from the cupboard and handed Cam a peeler and the bag of potatoes. Can you peel some of these while I help Jordan? Brian asked, looking at Cam. Sure thing, Cam said, taking the peeler. Jordan grabbed an oven mitt and pulled some baked chicken from the oven, placed it on the trivet to cool for a while. He was fishing in the cupboard for his turkey pan. Cam started peeling the potatoes as Alice was talking to Brian about the wine she had brought up for them to try. It has a fruity bouquet, she says. taking a swish and rolling it around with her tongue. "It's quite good," Jordan said, and Brian agreed. "Good thing I bought 2 bottles," Alice remarked, smiling at them. Jordan, not finding the pan in the cupboard, walked over and opened the folding door to the pantry. Used back in the day as a butler's pantry, and with the passing of time changed into just a pantry, housing older pots and pans and overstock of canned and boxed food. Jordan remembered that he had not completely unboxed all of his belongings. Now he was unsure if he even kept the darn thing. Brian knocked on the door as he entered the pantry, looking around the room. Jordan could tell by the look on Brian's face that there was something wrong. "I have the feeling you didn't come in here to help me find the pan. What's wrong?" "Oh, I'll help. Just I thought we could talk for a moment while we're alone." "I would like to talk about, well, us," Brian said, staring into those green eyes which were now staring right back, as if to look into Brian's soul. "I understand this is all new, and we have decided to just go with the flow, unless we're changing that," Jordan said with a look of concern. "No, God, no, I'm not changing anything. I just wanted to let you know that it's okay if this won't work out, considering I have a killer after me and is slowly killing people around me. So, if you want to bail, I get that. That's all," he responded by closing his eyes to reveal tears. Brian knew there was a connection. No doubt. Jordan was it. The idea of something happening to Jordan when they just met would be devastating. Jordan was quick to embrace Brian in a big hug. Stepping back and wiping the tears with the corner of his thumbs, looked dead at Brian. "I'm not going anywhere. Yes, there's risk with this relationship. Not one I've been through before, mind you. Yet I can't imagine the thought of something happening to you. Nope, I'm not going anywhere." With a smile and a kiss on the lips, everything seemed okay in that moment, which led to the discovery of the turkey pan. "I think I found what you're looking for," Brian said, smiling and pointing behind Jordan. Jordan, following his pointing, discovered the pan on the top of the cabinets. Now that the turkey pan had been discovered, dinner could continue while the ice and snow fell outside. Cam could hear the wind howling outside as he sat at the table, trying to look out the sliding door. Yet, ice crystals, which seemed to dance across the pane of glass, had started to frost over the door, making it hard to see out. Listening to the storm was all he could do. Everyone gathered into the kitchen, watched as the turkey was prepped, and Jordy placed it into the oven. They figured if the turkey was not done in time, not like it was a huge bird, only 15 pounds or so, they would have the baked chicken as backup. All the fixings were ready, or at least almost done, as Cam took his time peeling the potatoes, more worried about the storm. Glasses were refilled with the fantastic wine Alice had brought with her. Brian made a mental reminder to replace her wine with something he knew she would enjoy. With the food nearly done, Jordan made his way to check on the fireplace in the living room. If more wood was needed, he would have to go out back to the woodshed alongside of the house. Not a far distance, yet the thought of having to go out there was not high on his list. Jordan was smart to have a few bundles left by the back door in case they were needed to keep the house warm had the power gone out. So far, so good. With the fire all situated, everyone went into the dining room now that the food was finished. The turkey, however, had another 30 minutes tops. Cam, Alice, sat down while Brian took the end of the table as Jordan walked out with the baked chicken. They had a nice spread before them, and now that Jordan was seated at the head of the table, his mouth opened as he was about to say something when the doorbell rang. Brian looked at Jordan and tilted his head. "Who could that be?" Brian asked as Cam was looking at Alice. Jordan got up from his seat and began to walk out towards the front door. As soon as Jordan opened the door, the power decided to go out. Standing outside in the cold, ice, and snow were two people, a tall man and a slightly shorter woman. Because of the weather, it was very hard to see the faces, yet he could tell it was a man and a woman. But who? "Can I help you?" Jordan asked, taking the man in as he just came a little closer to Jordan. "Jordan Prescott?" the man asked as he quickly looked at the woman. "Yes, I'm Jordan Prescott. Is there something I can help you with? I don't normally see patients at my home. Is this an emergency?" he asked, looking at the quiet woman. "We were wondering if we could talk to you for just a few minutes. Considering the storm, we don't have that much time." "Ah, and the mayor is here, of course," the man said as he could now see Brian over Jordan's shoulder. "Who are you, and what do you want?" Jordan asked, narrowing his eyes. The man stepped out of the shadow to reveal who he was. "My name is Louis Scarborough, and this is my wife, Diane. We met before." Jordan was stunned for a second, realizing who they were. Jordan stepped back from the door. "Is Gemma with you too?" he asked. "No. We're here to talk to you about your father. It also concerns the mayor here," Loomis said, pointing to Brian. Jordan looked a bit shocked. Brian opening his mouth to say whatever he was going to, but was quickly silenced by a single gunshot. As it deafened the room, it caused Jordan to grab Brian, taking him down to the floor as a scream could be heard from Diane. Jordan, who had landed on Brian to cover him, started to push himself up. When he turned his head, he could see blood running across the hardwood floor. Panic now filled his head. Where was it coming from? He did not know. Thanks so much for listening to Murder in Stratton County. A wonderful 16 chapters. Is there going to be a book 2? I believe so. So you may have to just wait just a little bit longer for book 2.